They won't tell you this in most doctors' offices, but I will, because you deserve the truth backed by science. For men over 60, vascular decline often begins in the smallest blood vessels, including those that determine sexual performance. That is not an exaggeration. It is a biological reality with decades of clinical and research evidence behind it. When blood stops flowing freely to the pelvic region, it is not just about performance. It is a systemic signal. Your body is telling you that your arteries are stiffening, narrowing, and struggling to deliver oxygen to your brain, your heart, and your most critical organs. And it almost always begins in a place most men choose to ignore until the consequences are already serious. I'm Dr. William Lee. I'm a physician, scientist, and researcher with over 30 years of experience studying how the body heals itself, how nutrition, lifestyle, and targeted biological inputs can restore circulation, reverse vascular decline, and bring back vitality that men have written off as permanently lost. I've worked with thousands of men just like you, good men, intelligent men, who were simply never given the information I'm about to share today. Because here's the part that most people find genuinely surprising. You can begin to reverse circulation decline without medication. And it starts with one powerful, accessible food found in nearly every grocery store, but almost always used the wrong way. When consumed correctly, this single food can flood your arteries with the biological signals they need to open up, drive fresh oxygen to every tissue, and restore the energy and vitality you thought were gone. In just a moment, I'll tell you exactly what this food is and how to use it for maximum effect. But first, you need to understand why circulation collapses after 60 and how to begin the recovery process before the damage compounds further. Before we go deeper, if this kind of evidence-based practical guidance on men's health matters to you, subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss another insight made specifically for you. If this message is resonating so far, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback makes this content sharper and more useful for men who need it most. 1. The real cause of your circulation crisis, it's not age. It's warning signs ignored. Let me speak to you directly, man to man, as a physician and as a scientist who has spent his career studying what actually happens inside the aging body. I've lost count of how many men have come to see me or attended my lectures convinced that what they were experiencing was simply the inevitable cost of getting older. Soft erections, cold extremities, heavy legs, a fading drive. They blamed time. They blamed the calendar. They had already decided the story was over. They were wrong. And I want to explain exactly why. What those men didn't recognize is that their body wasn't merely aging. It was communicating. Your circulation doesn't collapse overnight. It begins with quiet, incremental changes that most men either miss or dismiss. You start waking up without the energy you expect. Your hands and feet feel cold more often than they used to. You find yourself winded by physical effort that once felt effortless. You rest more, but feel rested less. These are not random symptoms. These are biological signals from your vascular system, your arteries telling you they are narrowing, losing elasticity, and struggling to deliver what they were designed to deliver. Here is what my research has consistently shown. Circulation loss does not begin in the heart. It begins in the smallest blood vessels, the microvasculature. And the very first place many men notice it, though they rarely connect the dots, is their sexual function. This is uncomfortable territory for many men, but it is also one of the most scientifically reliable early warning indicators we have. When blood flow to the pelvic region diminishes, it reflects a broader pattern of cardiovascular dysfunction. The smallest vessels fail first. And if those signals are ignored, the damage continues to progress through larger vessels toward the heart, the brain, the kidneys. The good news, and this is the foundation of everything I've built my research on, is that the body has a remarkable, documented capacity for biological self-repair. You simply need to give it the right signals. And it all starts with one critical molecule that most men have never been told about, one that is already produced inside the body, but begins to vanish dramatically after 60. It is not a drug, and it is not a supplement. It is a naturally occurring compound. And when levels fall, the downstream effects are systemic and serious. Let's talk about it. 2. The molecule that can begin to turn things around. Nitric oxide. I still remember a patient I saw years ago, a man in his early 70s who had been active his whole life, retired, proud, but quietly struggling with something he couldn't articulate clearly. He sat across from me and said, "Dr. Lee, I don't feel like myself anymore. I feel like I'm fading." His clinical tests were normal. His cardiac rhythm was steady, and yet everything about his presentation, his energy, his posture, his affect, signaled something that standard blood work doesn't capture: low nitric oxide and the vascular deterioration that follows. Within weeks of targeted intervention, something shifted. His color improved. His posture changed. He walked differently. He spoke with more energy. And he wasn't an isolated case. Nitric oxide is the body's primary vasodilator, the biological signal that tells blood vessels to relax and expand. When blood vessels open, blood flows freely, carrying oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and everything else your tissues need to function. This is what allows the heart to pump efficiently, the brain to maintain clarity, and the body to remain physically capable and sexually responsive. Nitric oxide is not a minor player in vascular health. It is the central regulatory molecule of the entire system. But here is the challenge. By the time most men reach 60, their nitric oxide production has declined by more than 75% compared to their peak. That is not a marginal reduction. It is a collapse. And it explains, with biological precision, why men in this age group feel slower, colder, more fatigued, and less responsive. It is not simply age. It is a measurable, correctable deficiency. Think of nitric oxide as the ignition system of your circulatory engine. Without it, nothing fires with the efficiency it should. Blood flow stalls, energy drops, performance suffers, and no amount of caffeine, supplements, or willpower addresses what the underlying chemistry is missing. The remarkable thing, and this is what my career in food as medicine has been built around, is that you can begin to restore nitric oxide levels naturally, safely, and relatively quickly. Not through a pharmacy, through your kitchen, through one specific food, prepared in one specific way that I have recommended to patients dealing with poor circulation for years with consistently compelling results. Let me show you exactly what it is. 3. The number one food for circulation over 60. Beetroot powder with black pepper. Over my decades of research and clinical practice, I've explored hundreds of bioactive foods and compounds. Very few have surprised me as consistently as this one. When men first hear beets, the reaction is predictably skeptical, a soft, forgettable vegetable from childhood dinners. But what is inside that root is anything but ordinary. Beets contain one of the highest natural concentrations of inorganic nitrates found in any common food. And those nitrates, once inside the body, are converted through a well-documented biological pathway into nitric oxide, the same molecule we just discussed as the master regulator of vascular function. Here is where the science becomes particularly interesting. Cooking beets significantly degrades their nitrate content. Heat-sensitive compounds are destroyed during preparation, which means the beets most people consume are delivering a fraction of their potential circulatory benefit. This is why I recommend beetroot powder instead. It is concentrated, heat-processed at low temperatures to preserve the active compounds, shelf-stable, and absorbs more readily than whole cooked beets. The nitrate content is consistent, measurable, and clinically meaningful, but there is one addition that dramatically amplifies the effect, and it's one that most people have never heard of in this context. Black pepper, specifically the compound piperine found in black pepper. Piperine is a bioavailability enhancer. Research has shown it can increase the absorption of certain compounds by as much as 2,000% by inhibiting the enzymes that would otherwise break them down before they can be fully utilized. When piperine is combined with beetroot powder, the body can access and deploy a significantly greater portion of the available nitrates, which translates directly into more nitric oxide, better vasodilation, and improved blood flow. The protocol is simple: 1 tablespoon of beetroot powder, a small pinch of freshly ground black pepper, 8 ounces of water. Stir thoroughly and consume approximately 30 minutes before your main meal of the day. The timing matters. Your digestive system is primed and the nitrate conversion pathway is most active in that pre-meal window. Men who have followed this consistently tell me the early effects are noticeable within the first few days. One patient described it as his daily restart. After 1 week of consistency, he was walking farther, sleeping more deeply, and waking up with an energy he hadn't felt in years. That is what happens when you give your vascular system the raw material it has been chronically missing. But to truly unlock the full benefit, you need to clear the obstacles. There are habits that men over 60 commonly follow, unknowingly, that actively work against circulation recovery, regardless of what they eat. Let me address those directly. 4. What happens to your body in the first 7 days I want to tell you about George. He was 68 years old, a retired firefighter, a father of 4, a man who had spent his entire career running toward danger when others ran away. When he sat across from me, he looked worn, not from fear, but from something quieter and harder to name. He said, "Dr. Lee, I just don't feel like me anymore. I'm not sharp. I'm tired constantly, and I know something isn't right." His blood work was within standard ranges. His numbers were technically normal, but the picture he was describing was far from healthy, and as someone who has studied the gap between conventional diagnostic thresholds and true biological function for decades, I knew exactly what was happening. His vascular system was underperforming in ways that blood work doesn't always capture. I asked him to trust the process. We started the beetroot powder and black pepper routine, made a few targeted adjustments, and I asked him to check in after 7 days. On day 3, he called me, not to report something dramatic, but to say something had shifted. He felt warmer in the morning. Getting out of bed no longer felt like a struggle. He said, "I can't fully explain it, but it's like something is moving through me again." On day 5, he noticed he was sleeping more deeply and waking up with less mental fog. By day 7, his wife called me, not George. She laughed and said, "Whatever you told him to do, please don't stop." This is what begins to happen when the circulatory system starts receiving the support it needs. The changes aren't always dramatic announcements. They are often quiet, cumulative shifts that build on each other. More warmth, clearer thinking, better sleep, a returning sense of physical confidence. These are not placebo effects. They are the predictable biological outcomes of improved nitric oxide availability and vascular responsiveness. George didn't only take the beetroot drink. He also added one supporting morning habit that I believe accelerated his results significantly. It's a technique used in European longevity clinics, and it takes under 3 minutes in the shower. Most men have never tried it, but those who do rarely go back. Let me walk you through it and the other practices that multiply the effect of everything we've discussed. 5. Supporting habits that multiply your circulation recovery in my work. I've observed something consistently across decades of patient care and research. It is rarely one intervention that produces lasting transformation. It is the combination of the right inputs, stacked intelligently, that creates the biological environment in which healing genuinely accelerates. You can take the right foods, the right targeted compounds, and still see limited results if your daily habits are actively working against you. Progress will feel like 1 step forward and 2 steps back. That is why when my patients begin the beetroot powder protocol, I also give them 4 simple daily practices that work in direct biological concert with it. The first is a 3-minute contrast shower, starting warm, shifting briefly to cold, then returning to warm. I understand that this sounds uncomfortable, but this technique is essentially a cardiovascular workout for your blood vessels. The alternating temperatures force the vessels to rapidly dilate and constrict, a form of vascular exercise that strengthens their responsiveness and drives fresh oxygenated blood into tissues that have been poorly perfused. Many of my patients describe it as the most energizing 3 minutes of their morning. Invigorating, clarifying, and surprisingly effective. The second practice is a 5-minute deliberate walk, not a power walk or a jog, a slow, intentional walk with attention placed on heel-to-toe movement and active engagement of the calf muscles. This matters because the calf muscles function as a secondary pump in the circulatory system, actively pushing blood back upward toward the core and the pelvic region. For men whose circulation has been compromised, this is one of the simplest and most mechanically sound ways to direct blood flow where it's needed most. The third is structured breathing. 3 daily sessions of deep diaphragmatic breathing, 6 seconds of inhalation, a 4-second hold, and a slow 8-second exhale. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reduces cortisol, and significantly increases oxygen delivery to the tissues. As we age, breathing tends to become shallower and more thoracic. Most men have no idea how much this restricts their oxygen availability. A few intentional minutes of focused breathwork can meaningfully shift how the entire body responds to everything else you're doing. The fourth is sleep optimization. The position, temperature, and environment in which you sleep directly affect nighttime blood flow, which is when the body performs the majority of its vascular repair and tissue restoration. Sleeping on your back with the knees slightly supported in a cool and dark environment provides the circulatory system with the conditions it needs to do its best recovery work. None of these practices are extreme. None of them require equipment, cost money, or take significant time. But together, as part of a consistent daily structure, they dramatically amplify the effects of the nutritional support you're providing. 6. The 7-day circulation reset plan. What I've found after decades of working with men who want to reclaim their health is this: information without structure rarely produces results. Men need a clear, sequential plan, something concrete to follow day by day, 1 step at a time. The science is only useful if it translates into action. So here is the exact 7-day routine I give my patients. The same one that has helped men across age groups feel meaningfully better within the first week. Each morning begins with hydration. At least 16 ounces of room temperature water with a small pinch of sea salt. This is not a casual suggestion. Hydration is the foundation on which all circulatory function rests. The sea salt provides electrolytes that support cellular fluid balance and prepare the vascular system for the day. This single habit, done consistently every morning, has a measurable impact on how the body responds to everything that follows. Then comes the contrast shower. 3 minutes. Warm, cold, warm, brief, manageable, and surprisingly powerful as a vascular stimulus. After that, 6 minutes of structured breath work, the inhale, hold, and extended exhale pattern. Done before the day's activities begin, it sets the neurological tone for reduced stress reactivity and improved oxygen utilization throughout the day. Before your main meal, consume the beetroot drink. 1 tablespoon of beetroot powder, a pinch of freshly ground black pepper, 8 ounces of water. Drink it deliberately, not in a hurry. This is a meaningful act of biological self-care, and your mindset during it is not entirely irrelevant to how your body receives it. In the afternoon, the 5-minute intentional walk. Even on days when energy is low, this brief practice keeps the calf pump active and prevents the afternoon circulatory stagnation that many men experience after sitting for extended periods. In the evening, wind down with intention. A small glass of water, no heavy late meals that redirect blood to digestion during your body's peak repair window, and 5 minutes of breath work before sleep. Sleep in a cool, dark room on your back with knees gently supported. This plan is not complicated. It is deliberate, and the biological logic behind every element is sound. Within 7 days, most men who follow it consistently report feeling more awake, warmer, more physically confident, and more present in their daily lives. 7. Bonus circulation superfoods to rotate weekly in my book, Eat to Beat Disease. I documented the extraordinary biological activity of specific foods on the vascular system. Foods that most people eat without understanding what they are actually doing at the cellular level. When my patients commit to the core protocol and begin to feel the early results, I encourage them to expand their nutritional toolkit by rotating in a handful of additional foods each week. These don't replace the beetroot drink. They amplify the system-wide effect. Raw garlic is first on my list. It lacks glamour, but it is one of the most consistently documented natural vasodilators in the research literature. The key is preparation. Crush a fresh clove and allow it to rest for 10 minutes before consuming. That resting period activates allicin, the primary bioactive compound responsible for garlic's circulatory effects. Swallow it whole like a capsule if the taste is too sharp. One patient called it his old-school circulatory support. The biology agrees with him. Pure pomegranate juice, no added sugars, no blends, just the real thing, is a rich source of polyphenols that protect the endothelial lining of the arteries and support their elasticity. A small glass consumed on an empty stomach in the morning delivers these compounds directly into the bloodstream before other foods compete for absorption. Many men report clearer thinking and improved stamina within a week of consistent use. Watermelon rind is one that consistently surprises people. The white inner portion that most people discard is one of the richest dietary sources of citrulline, an amino acid that the body converts into arginine, a direct precursor to nitric oxide. Blended into a morning smoothie, it provides a clean, food-based boost to the same biological pathway that the beetroot drink is targeting. Using both in the same day creates a compounding effect on nitric oxide availability. Finally, dark leafy greens, particularly raw spinach and arugula, are densely packed with dietary nitrates that feed directly into the nitric oxide production pathway. A daily handful added to a lunch or smoothie keeps this system continuously supported. In my research, Consistent leafy green intake is one of the most reliable dietary predictors of sustained vascular health in older adults. These foods are not magic. But your body, given the right inputs consistently delivered, absolutely is. It knows how to heal. It simply needs the raw materials and the biological signals to begin. 8. Final thoughts. This isn't just about food. It's about freedom. I have met a great many men over 60 who walk into a conversation about their health looking defeated. Not because they have given up, but because somewhere along the way a belief settled in. A belief that decline was the only available narrative, that lost strength, diminished energy, fading drive, and reduced intimacy were simply the unavoidable price of having lived a long life. As a scientist, I find this belief genuinely tragic because the biological evidence does not support it. The body's capacity for repair and renewal is not fully exhausted at 60, or 70, or 80. I have spent my career documenting this across every dimension of health, from cancer biology to cardiovascular function to metabolic resilience. The body does not simply give up. It responds to its environment. It responds to input. Given the right biological signals, it initiates repair processes that most men have been told are no longer available to them. This is not just about food, and it is not just about circulation. It is about what becomes possible when a man reclaims his physical vitality. The freedom to move without restriction, to wake up with genuine energy and purpose, to be present, fully present with the people he loves, to stand beside his partner and feel capable, connected, and alive. These are not small things. These are the dimensions of life that make the years meaningful. The practices we've covered today, the beetroot powder and black pepper drink, the contrast shower, the deliberate walk, the structured breathing, the sleep optimization, the rotation of circulatory superfoods, these are not random suggestions. They are a coordinated set of biological inputs that collectively signal the body to begin doing what it already knows how to do, repair, restore, and function at a higher level. And the moment you begin consistently providing those signals, healing starts. Not someday. Now, the research is clear. The biology is sound. And the experiences of the men I've worked with over 3 decades confirm what the science already tells us. It is not too late. You have more control over your vascular health, your energy, and your vitality than you have been led to believe. The body you're living in has not given up on you. It is simply waiting for you to give it the right conditions to come back online. So, begin today. 1 glass of beetroot water before lunch, 3 minutes of contrast in the shower, a handful of arugula at dinner. These are small acts, but their biological consequences, compounded over days and weeks and months, are anything but small. Your circulatory system is listening. Your body is ready. And the version of yourself you want to return to may be closer than you think, waiting just on the other side of better blood flow. If this message resonated with you, if even one part of it gave you a clearer picture of what's possible, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment below. I read every single one. And if you'd like to support this channel so we can continue bringing honest, research-grounded content to men over 60, consider making a small contribution. Every bit helps keep this work going and keeps your health exactly where it belongs, front and center.